This Saturday from 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific, we are lucky enough to have the one and only Dion talk come on and talk with our boot camp for day 6 of our 10-day boot camp. And I want to kind of give it a little tease because I think he is going to share something that we all need to hear. And Dion, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate being called the lazy landlord because I had to actually set down the VR helmet as I'm sitting here at home in my retirement life doing all the nothing that I want to.
I love that. I love that. Well, the reason I think your discussion is important is I believe most people will look at what you've done. You earned financial freedom with 16 units. I think most people can look at that number and go, "Hey, over a decade, over 8 years, over 12 years, I could do that." And I think that is so important to have just that belief that you can get there, right? It's so hard for people not to compare their year 1 with your year 10 and my year 22, but they do it anyway. What do you think of all that?
So there's been a couple of shifts along the way. I've said recently, and I don't think I knew this in the beginning. In the last probably 5 years, my goal has been the right amount of cash flow with the least amount of units. Right? That became kind of where I was looking at for retiring. I completely have respect for people like you, lumberjack landlord, millennial Mike, that are going to, have massive portfolios, or Mike is growing a big portfolio. And I understand the work and dedication it takes to do that, and ultimately the rewards that come from doing that, right? That wasn't my goal. First, the first goal that I mentioned that seems to irritate people is I don't actually have the goal of creating generational wealth. Right. My kids will inherit millions, but I don't want them to know that. Like, I don't want them to expect it and think that their retirement depends on me passing away, because then they might be less motivated to be successful on their own. And I want them to know that we're all in this by ourselves, and maybe you get something from your parents, maybe you don't. The best thing I want to do for my kids is not become a financial burden to them when I'm too old to work. That was kind of my goal. And so when I say the right amount of cash flow with the least amount of units, that's the last 5 years. In the first 5 years of investing, my goals were actually smaller. I think this tracks a little bit with what you talk about in your book, One Rental at a Time. You were talking about working until retirement, but you figured if you had 4 rentals, your retirement would be way better than if you didn't have those assets producing.
That was the goal, man. I had no big vision, no big dreams. I just wanted 4, and I was selfish. I just wanted a better retirement than most, and I thought 4 would give it to me. That was it.
We'll put me in that selfish column, because I think retirement 15 years before the normal time and with more money than I know what to do with is a retirement I think people might want. So when I first started, I thought if I bought a house every 2 years, because like if I save a down payment for an owner-occupied loan every 2 years, in 10 years, I'd have 5 rentals. And that was it. I figured 10 years, I'll have 5. That's probably, but then the income snowball starts to kick in, and I switched to small multifamily. And yeah, in 8 years, I purchased like 5 properties. So I was right around track to do that, but they were 5 properties with 16 units. Mm-hmm. And those units, because I invest for cash flow, right? And specifically, I get cash flow because I'm investing for yield, right? I talked about this in my live stream last night, really differentiating cash flow and yield. A lot of people focus on cash flow, but if you don't know how much it costs to acquire that metric doesn't really tell us much. But if you focus on yield, the cash flow will be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
if you want to increase cash flow, folks, just pay cash. That'll increase cash flow. It'll make your yield terrible, but it'll increase cash flow.
So there's a timeline to it. And what I wanted was cash flow right around the 10-year mark. So for me, that happened by recycling the cash flow, not doing home equity lines of credits, not taking cash out refinances, not selling for a 1031. I think what you and the lumberjack did was the cash flow happened around the 15-year or 20-year mark, 10 times what mine is, because you recycled capital and you did all of those strategies to grow a bigger portfolio that ended up with more cash flow.
Yeah, I think the key to, kind of all our 3 strategies, I think we all did the same thing. We went through an acquisition or building phase, and then we got to some point, or at least you and I did. I think Matt's still building, frankly. We're like, we're good. Let's slow down. Let's pay off some debt. Let's do these other things. So Yeah, my acquisition, I was just buying and recycling for 15 years. It was a game to me. It was literally monopoly. It was 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. I did that over and over and over again.
So in the boot camp on Saturday, there's a couple of things that I like to teach. I hate to say use the word teach, but I want to share things that people might be able to use.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them are going to come from things I learned from Sean Cannell, who's going to be at your event in February. And it's really interesting to me that he teaches people how to grow a business and a YouTube channel. But there are 2 things that related so perfectly to real estate that I'm going to cover those this weekend. So a teaser for what's going to happen in February. But I also want to talk about the questions we ask ourselves. A lot of people start with good questions, but most of us forget this one question that mattered to me the most. And I don't think I realized this till about, like I said, 5 years ago. We start with the question, can I retire? When would that look like? Will it be an age? Then we realize, well, maybe it's a number. Then we go, well, what's my freedom number? Well, how will I achieve my freedom number? All of the questions that we ask to reach financial freedom, I rarely hear an investor talk about, think about, or ask me, how much is enough?
Yeah.
That's not the way anybody that I know really looks at it. It's, I can grow more. Once I grow more, I'll have more assets to deploy and do more things. But for me, enough became a multiplier of my freedom number. So it takes me around 4,000 a month to live because I'm still house hacking. And when I travel, I'm not going to really expensive places. I'm going to Colombia and Thailand and places where the dollar's strong. And I scuba dive, so I don't have a really expensive, hobbies. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to retire when I had 4,000 a month in cash flow. But when it hit a multiplier of about 4, when I had 16,000 a month coming in that I don't have to work for, I call it horizontal money, comes in even if I'm just laying down.
Horizontal money.
I felt kind of silly going to work. I was like, how much more than what I need do I need? And at 4, I have enough for health concerns. I have enough for economic downturns. I have enough for rents to decrease if they ever did. I could survive a housing crash, which would make me wealthier. A recession, which tends to make me wealthier. Like all of these things I'm prepared for. So enough for me was literally a specific number. What is 4 times what I need? And I was able to work through the math on that and realize that I passed it about 4 years sooner than I retired because I didn't run the math until I was making videos on it. I actually released a video recently where I made a video just before I retired on the whiteboard thing. Here's what my cash flow looks like. I think that video is why I retired.
You're like, it was like what I call light bulb moment. It just went.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I hope we discuss on Saturday, and again, it will be all boot camp driven, right? We're going to riff for 30 minutes, and then the team will be asking questions. But I think most people would be shocked, and you self-manage. Most people think self-manage means you're on the phone all day. Again, 16 units, and you spend somewhere around 2 to 4 hours a month. So I think it's going to be important for folks to kind of hear that and what are those and what systems and those things. I think that's going to be important. So again, and you invest relatively in your backyard, right? You just picked up a duplex that was slightly outside of your legacy buy boxes, but you can see all of your units in half hour, 45 minutes. So let's talk about all that as we kind of wrap up this first episode.
So I invested for a couple of reasons. One, I like the control. Right. I have control of this. I like the diversification. I keep my properties at least 10 miles apart as my goal on all of them. And this new one's a little bit further out. And while I realized my how much is enough number, I'm not actively going, okay, how do I maximize and optimize and grow my portfolio more? But here's the problem. I want people to understand that you'll have once you reach financial freedom using a metric like I did, where I have a multiplier of what I need. This problem sucks, and I'm hoping everybody watching has this problem. The money keeps piling up.
Yeah.
Right. So I did just
income snowballs for real, right? Yeah.
It is. And I just added a duplex. So now it's at 18 units. So I retired when I had 16, retired for over a year with 16, and then I added an 18th. And I ended up buying it cash. I'm rehabbing 1 unit. I might do a cash out refinance when I'm done, but I'm not motivated to because I'm not trying to grow, but the money keeps piling up. depending on the deals that I find. So I think for a minute I was thinking, oh, if interest rates drop, I'll refinance. But if I find a deal that I know I can make happen that has the right yield,
Yeah,
I won't care what the interest rate is on the cash out refinance if the return on the new deal is enough to justify it.
exactly.
And because I'm making videos and my members only live streams, we go and we look at deals. I believe, because that's what's happened with this one. I wasn't really looking. We looked at a couple of markets and I thought, those are some really good deals.
Yeah,
I,
those numbers, I'm gonna have to scratch those a little bit more.
I sent some to some friends. I said, okay, so here's some deals you should look at. It's in my area. I would buy this if I was buying, and then I just started making offers, which will probably happen again in a few months.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I look forward to it. I know 2 hours of your time on Saturday is a great gift to the audience. Dion, if somebody wanted to follow you and do watch your live streams, tell us about those.
You can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. My live streams are every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And if you go to diontalk.com, you can get my free course on the binder strategy, which is
Ooh,
where I
I
get my
love that.
tenants to ask me to raise the rent.
I can't believe that's still free. What is the website one more time?
diontalk.com.
There you go. Thank you, buddy.